On this episode of Built to Last, we go inside a mill shop where craftsmanship and technology share the stage to produce custom cabinetry. I'll also go on site to get a step up and a step on the latest flooring products for commercial buildings. Next on Built to Last. Hi, I'm Bruce Obora. Today we are focusing on cabinets and flooring. First off, we visit a mill shop where we get a chance to see steps involved in making custom cabinetry. Later, I'll venture to the new Salvation Army Freedom Center where they are in the process of putting in various types of flooring. Today we're going to take a tour of a custom mill shop, find out the process and steps that take place to do some custom cabinetry and millwork. We're here at InterOcean and we're meeting with Chris Farrell. Chris, I appreciate you meeting with us today. Can you give us a little overview about your company and your shop here?
No problem, Bruce. Here at InterOcean Cabinet Company, we fabricate and install custom architectural millwork and cabinetry. We take the architect's intent and then we do everything from engineer the product here in our drafting department to the custom fabrication here in our shop, ship it all out of here, and then we've got our own union installation teams that install as well. Here with me today I do have Eric Schumer, who's our plant manager, who's going to kind of help us with the tour and take us through some of the technical processes and some of the machinery we use to fabricate our custom millwork.
Okay. So what becomes your role then, Eric?
My role out here is to manage and facilitate and make sure that the right project is assigned to the right person or that the right material is going to the correct machine. I do a lot of the ordering, a lot of cut lists and part lists, and just general manage of the shop out here.
So I guess we better let you get to work so we're not holding up production.
After we're awarded a project, we draw it. Then after we draw it and everything's approved and we're through the sample approval process, we start to order material in for the project. At that point, we'll start to receive it. This is our receiving department here where flatbed trucks typically come in our parking lot, bring in material that we unload, and then everything is kind of staged and set up here where our plant manager works with people in the facility to pick through the material that we're going to use for different projects. Once materials kind of picked, sorted through, and we're ready to start going, we then start to machine these sheet goods into parts for cabinets and other custom architectural millwork. What I'm going to do now is kind of take you to where Eric's stationed, our plant manager, over on our Cnc Router, so you can kind of see that process where we start to cut and machine parts for cabinetry and go from there.
Okay, great. Let's take a look.
So Bruce, after we receive the material, a logical starting point is our Cnc Router.
Okay.
Cnc Router helps us take sheet goods that we get and we receive in our receiving department and turn them into cabinet parts and other architectural millwork in a very fast, efficient manner with minimal waste. I'm going to kind of turn everything over to our plant manager, Eric, again, to kind of take you through how the machine works and what the operator interacts with the machine.
So what this machine does, it does a lot, or what it mostly does is it cuts parts out from flat panels into components and parts for entire elevations. It has quite a few drill bits and cutting knives and router knives in it that can cut flat panels into all these parts. It's going to do all the drilling for any hardware and for all the doweling and connections to actually put the actual cabinets together. So all those items are programmed by our programming department in the drafting room, and they're sent to a server. and then he can connect to that server from this machine and open that up into the correct program so that it can be placed onto this machine and turned into all the parts that we need for those elevations.
Okay, so from here, basically, these components, everything's laid out, and it looks like it's kind of maximizing the sheet of material, so it looks like there's very little waste.
That's basically the idea. What the program is doing is it's taking the entire elevation and it's placing all different parts. It might be from different cabinets, but it's placing them onto sheets to optimize each panel so there's extremely little waste. Dave, our operator here, he's going to go ahead and fire the machine up, and you'll be able to see how the whole thing operates.
After the parts leave the router, they come to our dowel insertion technology, our dowel insertion machine, which is run by an operator. Here we're able to automatically drill for dowel holes and insert them very quickly. And Eric is kind of going to take us through how this fits into the whole process and how the machine works.
Yeah, it's a very simple machine. What it does is it's actually going to drill right on the edge of this piece. It's going to drill the hole and insert the dowel. So you'll see after it comes off the machine, it's been drilled so that the face of the rail, or whatever it is, if it's a bottom, will line up with the face of the cabinet.
Bruce, after the parts leave the dowel insertion machine, we take them to the next step in the process, which is our edge bander.
Okay.
Conveniently located and strategically located right across the way. From here, the parts that have previously been routed and doweled get edges applied to them so you no longer have the rough particle board, MDF, or plywood edge. I'm going to let Eric kind of take us through how this machine works and what a finished part looks like.
So what this machine is going to do is it's going to put a hot melt glue on here, and then a feed roller will feed what's called PVC or wood veneer right onto the piece. As it goes through the machine, there's several cutters inside the machine that come down, trim the excess piece off. There's a cutter that will come up and trim the ends and the leading edge, and then there's some buffers at the end that buff that so that it basically comes out a finished piece ready for assembly. So after the parts are routed on the CNC and have been doweled on the dowel insertion machine, they are ready to go to the edge bander. So you'll see after it comes through, the piece is smooth to the touch and it's ready for assembly.
So Chris, what's the next step here that we're looking at?
This is kind of the final part of pre-assembly before we go to the assembly side. After the parts are done and off the edge bander, they're brought over here. They're kind of pre-assembled on this assembly table here, and this is our case clamp. So Eric's going to kind of show us how the final parts are fit together. A little bit of glue is used, and then we put it on the case clamp. To clamp that cabinet together, has to sit for 5 to 7 minutes in that clamp, and then it's fully cured, ready to go, and it goes over to assembly side of the house where it's completely trimmed out for hardware, drawer boxes, things like that.
Now, Eric, I see this is pretty much the final steps of the process here.
Yes, once it's all done and double checked and everything, it gets shrink wrapped, gets placed on our truck, and gets delivered directly to the job site.
Well, I really appreciate you taking us through the steps of this process. But I know plastic laminate cabinets aren't the only things you do here, Chris. I noticed that you have finishing shop and there's a lot of other machinery that you haven't showed us today.
That's correct. You know, what we kind of showed you first was our whole process and our cell for fabricating custom plastic laminate cabinetry. Other than that, we do everything that an architect wants us to do in terms of architectural millwork, from running trim, door frames, doors, wood wall panels, wood ceiling panels, window jambs and casing. Really, whatever the architect could dream of that contains wood or a wood-related product that we can use our tools on, we'll do.
What I thought was very interesting in a part of the process is just the skill and training that you need really to operate these things. There's computer training, carpentry skills. You're really multifaceted for the people to be involved in this.
That's definitely true. Most of our people here, most of our best people, have been in this trade for a long time. A lot of them went into the apprenticeship program with the union, started as apprentices here, learned the machinery, learned the shop. Most people who start with us, if they do well, we try to help cross-train them and give them opportunities to grow within the company.
You know, and it becomes very evident in the finished product that you guys put out. Really appreciate the time giving us a tour. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, Bruce. Anytime.
Hi, Tom. I appreciate meeting with us here today.
Hi, Bruce. How are you?
Good. Can you tell us a little bit about this project?
Yes, my name is Tom Nowicki from Mr. David's. We're doing the flooring work at this project. This is the Salvation Army New Freedom Center, located in Humboldt Park, Illinois. Basically, it's a project for the community, and we're just wrapping up some flooring here on the first floor, some carpet tile, resilient sheet vinyl, and we'll be doing some moisture testing.
Okay, and it's all that stuff's going to be taking place today?
Yes, sir. We're working from the fourth floor down, and we're on the first floor right now, so we got all facets going.
Okay, can we take a look at it?
Absolutely, sir.
Thank you. So, Tom, what are some of the first steps that have to take place here?
Well, the first thing that we got to do, Bruce, is test the concrete for moisture content. And that's what we're going to do for the starters. Before we put any material on the floor, we have to test the concrete. If the relative humidity is too high, then we have to treat the floor.
Okay.
First step is getting here and just testing it and see where we're at. All we have to do now is actually put a gauge in there and find out where our readings are. Okay, so we have our readings, Bruce. We have a 74 and a 79, which falls into the spectrum of installing the sheet vinyl. So we're good with the moisture content. So we can start applying the sheet vinyl down on the floor without treating it for a mitigation system. In this condition, we are good, we're ready to go. We can start installing sheet vinyl right away. This is the next step in the process. We have done our moisture mitigation, our testing, and now we have the floor to sand and patch to get right to put the material down. It's the most important step in the whole process. The sheet vinyl will reflect everything and imperfection that you can possibly imagine underneath that floor. Once the patch is completed, we actually come back and sand it once again, and then if we might have to patch it a second time to get it 100% correct. And then we'll sand one more time, and then sweep it, and then we're ready to go. So Bruce, the next step is to put the sheet vinyl down. We have John here, he's our site superintendent for Mr. David's, and he can go over the actual plan and area that we're going to be looking at.
Okay, great.
This print actually gives us our dimensions for the radius and tells us where to plot our lines so we can get it ready.
Okay. So you kind of use this print. Does this color-coded represent the different finishes that you guys are going to be installing?
Yeah, we have like this yellow is sheet vinyl, this blue is carpet, we have rubber that goes in here, and obviously the sheet vinyl has got different colors throughout the radiuses and in the rooms.
So this is an overview of all the installation you're going to be doing on
On the first floor, yes.
Okay, great. Can we take a look at the installation?
Absolutely.
So what do we have going on here?
This is where we are plotting our radius. They've already plotted their lines, and they're going to start transferring the lines now onto the sheet vinyl so we can cut it. The left side is already installed. The right side, we had this line on underneath it, and now we're just going to trim it back, leaving the side that's glued.
Okay, so all this is prepped beforehand so you know exactly pretty much what you're doing.
Absolutely.
So now the radiuses and everything that's laid out, is this something that's determined on the drawings and you guys just
Yeah.
transfer this into the field here?
Yes, yeah. So like they request like this radius, for example, at its high and its low is, on the high end, it's 3 feet off of this wall. On the low end, it's 1 foot off this wall. And every 19 feet, you have a high and a low.
Okay, so this is something that's going to kind of be repetitious down the hallway here, so you just
Yes,
keep transferring your marks.
There's
as
changes
you
that
go.
you have to watch the print for, but a typical layout throughout the corridor is this.
So actually, this is pretty much a multi-step process. You have to lay this out on the floor, you put the material down, and then you're really doing a double layout again to make sure everything matches up.
Right.
So then you glue up to the point where your marks are, you peel this back, and then
Right.
the process repeats for the next color?
Yes. Well, the next color we'll lay down over it. We actually trim it just about a 1/2 inch to where this one was going to be cut.
Okay.
And then we'll use a pair of underscribers like this to get it exactly the same radius all the way around. So it basically transfers what this sheet is to the next sheet, and then we just follow that line with a knife and trim it.
So John, we've just come from the areas where the floor is being prepped. What are the next steps that take place?
First, they'll draw the lines for the radius based on what the prints tell them, and trace it with a PVC pipe, draw it on the concrete. Then they will apply the adhesive, which you see we stopped here where the radius is and leaving the other side dry so that when we flop it in, the side that we want to keep is going to be glued down, and the other side we could just peel right out. It's also important that they roll back on lines. You have to wait for the clear spread to be clear so you can see the lines so that it stays in line and everything fits.
Okay, now these are roughly 6-foot rolls, so is there a layout or process that goes through to kind of determine where your starting points are?
Yes, generally you'll measure the length and width of the room and the direction that the material is running. And based off of there, you'll decide what wall to start off of. Also on the prints, they do most of the time tell you where to start and what dimensions to pull off the wall.
Does it set up for a while, or what's the process here then?
Absolutely, Bruce. The first thing you got to do is obviously apply the adhesive on the floor, and then you have to wait for it to flash off. The gas is the flash. If you drop the sheet vinyl in too early, adhesion will not occur. You'll have bubbles, and you just will not be able to get them out. Once this sheet's dropped, it cannot be moved, so it's essential that it's lined up correctly initially. And then we're going to go ahead and repeat the process of rolling it, and then this seam will be essentially ready for welding. And then we'll come back, and then we'll trim in everything after everything's been rolled. All the excess air escapes, and then we have a finished floor.
Okay, so then pretty much once this is done, you come back and trim it. At that point, you do the seam?
Right, you're supposed to wait till the following day to actually weld it.
Okay.
You need full adhesion and the glue to dry and to escape any gas that is remaining to escape before you lock everything in together.
First, they will gouge out the seams with a tool, a groover, and then they will come in with a welder, a heat welder, and it basically blows hot air on top of this vinyl weld rod, and you feed it through, and it just heats it into there, and it basically has a weld between the two materials and the rod itself. Then you let it cool, and you come back and skive it off, and it ends up just like this.
Okay, so basically it becomes an integral bond between the two materials.
Absolutely, and it's also a design in the floor.
Okay, so I see you've got a couple different colors here, so basically it can be done to become an accent rather than something similar to make the joint disappear.
Correct.
So once it's done and cleaned up, it becomes a seamless surface, and it looks like a great finished product.
You don't have to wax it. You do not have to buff it. It's just clean it, and it's really self-maintaining. So it's a nice addition to the lineup here at the Salvation Army. This is the final product, Bruce. So we're on the 4th floor. This is where the project started. This is where the initial testing was done for the moisture. After that, we did our floor prep and sanding, and then we laid out the sheet vinyl, got to this point, cut everything in, and then welded it as you see. So this represents the finished product. The base is up. All they have to do is clean the floor, and it's done.
So Tom, what do we have going on here?
Well, Bruce, this is an office space, public area with private offices on the inside. And we have two types of material going down in this area. We have, on the inside is a carpet tile, and on the outside we have a broadloom, 12-foot wide goods as a border, a 1-foot border. Both are made by Maslin, and that is a product made in the USA, which is 100% recycled content and also LEED qualified. So what Gary's doing right now is he's putting in the outfill to finish up the area, and he's applying a seam sealer right now made by the manufacturer that'll help connect the two products to seal it in together.
Okay. Does that act as something to keep from unraveling as well, or to finish off?
I guess you can compare it to the sheet vinyl weld. It's going to weld both pieces together so there's no fraying that it's going to occur over time, and kind of mesh it all as a one-piece system.
Two, this is, I assume based on what's here, there's a layout and certain things are done and determine the pattern and extent of the work that's being applied.
Right, in this situation, obviously we start with sanding the floor, preparing the floor for the material, and then we would snap a line from end to end, which in this case looks like it's about 200 to 300 feet. And then that's your starting point. You install the insert carpet tile, and then you move from there to the exterior, which is your 1-foot border.
So Tom, is this the carpet product you were talking about that's being installed?
Yes, this is carpet tile. It's manufactured by Maslin. As you can see, it's made in the USA. High recycled content, LEED qualified, and actually see a lot of this tile installed throughout the city. What we're going to be showing you is Gary is going to be installing this product. The adhesive's got to dry again, just like we went over with the sheet vinyl. And what that does is allow the carpet tile to be taken up in case somebody spills on it or there's damage to it. Releasable glue is used on this application to be able to take it up later as needed.
So once this is in and sealed, same thing, I assume there's a time for it to adhere, dry, and then you can go on from there.
Well, once it's done, you can pretty much walk on it. No heavy machinery equipment for 24 hours for the adhesive to dry. Then we base it, and then they'll cover it. And then once the project is complete, they'll uncover it, and it's ready to go.
Okay. So the next step here is once the carpet's in, it would be ready for base?
Yes, base would be next, and then we are complete.
So here they're putting in the base. Kind of what's the process that would take place here?
Well, Bruce, this is coil base, which means it's seamless. It's 120 feet without any seams, and therefore it has to be all set up on the wall before we glue it in. And then once it's set up, we glue the whole piece and put it all on at once. It's not, typical base comes in 4 feet widths, and this is a little different circumstance where you have no seams. So the cuts have got to be exact, they got to be precise, and any kind of flaw, basically the piece is garbage and we have to start fresh. So there's a lot of skill involved here also.
Also, they're using a urethane adhesive in this particular application because of the FRP board. The regular base adhesive that we use is a water base, and it will not dry in between the 2 layers of vinyl.
Okay.
So you have to make sure that you're using the right material as well.
So that's something you pretty much you have to know up front. What are you going to be mounting to for the different types of adhesives and materials you're going to be dealing with?
Absolutely.
The traditional adhesive would never dry if we just use a traditional adhesive.
Sure.
It would
peel off.
It would peel off, and in 5 years you'd have the same wet feel. And then you would have maybe mold buildup, so it's essential to use the right adhesive. In this application, that it'll dry quick, easy, stick, and then it'll be fine for years to come.
Now they just form it around the corner like that, and they just kind of keep moving then?
Well, right, everything gets gouged out, so you're actually taking material out of the inside.
Oh, to form it.
form. So there's definitely some skill level involved on making that precise cut. And once the cut's made, simply put it on the wall and it should fit right in like a glove.
Okay, so otherwise the material would not be given at a corner, then be kind of pulling away or projecting.
Right, yeah, there's no give with the material, so unless it's cut and cut right, reflect any imperfection on the outside corners.
Once this is in, this is pretty much brings everything to a close for what your finished product is.
Yes, this is the last step in the whole flooring process. So once the base is installed, we are done. We move on to the next section, or we call it a day and move on to the next project. But the base is the final application.
So Tom, I appreciate you taking the time to show us around today and all the installations you guys are involved in here.
Oh, I appreciate you coming out and letting us give you the opportunity of showing you what we can do. And this is a great project to actually take a look at it, and with all the different facets of flooring that you did see.
Whether your construction challenge is commercial or residential structures, we hope that our guests today have helped you build a good foundation for best practices in the construction trades. I'm Bruce Obora. Thank you for watching Built to Last.
Visit the Built to Last website to learn about these topics and more.